we bought a Ferrari and then we transformed it into a tractor or a motorbike. Nobody understands how hyper complex doing e-commerce is. My name is Hannu Vangsgaard, and I've been serving 25 years in the digital arena in a lot of different roles. If I have a claim to fame, if you could say that, that would be me starting up the e-commerce business in Denmark's biggest retailer, Salling Group, where I was actually the first employee in the e-commerce department.
To be honest, we are surrounding ourselves with very positive customer stories about amazing e-commerce growth.
Yeah.
But I get the feeling that sometimes failed e-commerce projects or very problematic e-commerce projects are not just a thing of the past, they're also something that's happening right now.
Absolutely.
Is that how you see it as well?
Absolutely. And I think the main reason is nobody understands how hyper complex doing e-commerce is, or building an e-commerce business. So I think, in search for predictability, in search for, optimism, I think a confirmation bias is a very strong driver when you build stuff like this. So you always try to, to get confirmed that, we're doing the right thing. But reality is that it's, I think, 90% or 95% or 100% of e-commerce platform projects, they're hard. And building an e-commerce business is hard because it involves, every little bit of your value chain. From procurement, inbound logistics, warehousing, selling, marketing, enriching data, merchandising, promotions, distribution, customer service, and so on and so on. So it's hyper complex. And if you only look at, also the positive case stories that, tech vendors or consulting companies tend to emphasize, you get the wrong picture. Let's say I'm a CIO buying a new platform. I don't want to hear it's hard. I don't want you as a tech vendor to come and tell me it's really hard and it's going to be expensive and we're going to, exceed budgets and timelines and so on. I don't want to hear that. And of course, you as a tech vendor, all tech vendors, all normal tech vendors would say, it's not a problem. Based on these assumptions, we can make it on time, on budget. Everybody would say that and everybody wants to hear that. I think that's the biggest mistake of all.
So how do you start an e-commerce project in the right way today?
So any digital transformation starting with an e-commerce business needs to be born at board level or C-level. So all projects where the CEO, where he or she isn't involved or isn't the main sponsor, things tend to go wrong. Simply because e-commerce is hyper complex. So it's not about just adding tech to a business. It involves and it touches every single part of the company. All the value chain is being touched by e-commerce. It's hyper complex and it's a mess. So you cannot have that very clear distinction of mandate and role and who do what. And because of that, you need to have the CEO as the prime sponsor. You need to have the CEO of the driver of any e-commerce or digital transformation.
Yeah, I think right now there's a lot of movement around thinking about e-commerce platforms as a much more open, much more modular technology foundation where you can swap things in and out.
Yeah.
Do you subscribe to that, the thinking behind that?
100%. So the whole kind of what you call microservice-based architecture or headless or whatever the headline we're using, I think that's a prerequisite going forward for actually being able to let business decide how tech is built. The platform we bought was a huge monolith, so we bought a Ferrari and then we transformed it into a tractor or a motorbike. So it wasn't meant for adapting to our business. We should have, going back, looking, we should have adapted our business to the platform, but just, to be pragmatic. So reality is, there is no one platform that can kind of contain all the needs you have. So building a microservice-based architecture is a prerequisite for business deciding over tech.
To sort of switch gears here, I know you are talking about focusing on the 98% quite a bit. So when you're in conversations with customers about how to transform their mindsets and not only focus on the 2% that are converting. What kind of conversation do you need to have with them?
Usually, I start asking if they have a personal passion. And normally, they do. Yeah, I like to ride mountain bikes. Okay, so when did you last buy a mountain bike? How did you do that? How much time did you spend researching? How many different websites did you use? What website ended up being the one that sold you the product? And you actually see, kind of when they merge the private life, where they have this, passionate relationship with the sport, for example, and then, the more rational, me being the CEO kind of approach to my everyday work, you see stuff happens, because that's exactly the way they need to think. So if I were to sell a bike to myself, how would I go about thinking about the 98% of the journey, where I research and make decisions and compare prices, compare features.
Yeah, so they do. So you are getting into a conversation about mixing the transactional with the storytelling or the experience planning and all that.
Yes, because as a retailer, you need to think more like a publisher, and I think that's a really interesting thing, because you need to understand the full journey, and you need to provide so much more information than you just the basic specs on products.
I want to talk about acceleration as well, or time to market, as you sometimes call it. You call it digital acceleration.
Yeah.
So what kinds of conversations do you have with customers about that?
I think the main topic here is alignment of expectations. So when I talk to a CEO, he or she would say, I need to make 10 million US in revenue 12 months from now doing e-commerce. So you kind of have the performance approach to things. I'm 100% sure if you try to do that, you'll fail. If you try to build a supply chain, a value chain, if you try to build a web shop and try to grow and fix the basic operations and understanding the customer and fine-tune the concept and understand, level of all the stuff involved with building e-commerce. If you try to do that at one time, you will 100% sure fail. So that's where we start. So there is no way around all those, the maturity journey. So what I start with is, your company will not die a year or 2 years from now if you don't succeed with e-commerce. But I'm 100% sure that if you don't succeed with it, 8 years from now, you will die. You need to look at this from a very long-term perspective. So let's talk about where you want to be as a business 6 years from now. And then you can start by, slicing up the journey in smaller parts. A generic approach would be start out by building, the minimum viable product or a proof of concept to understand, just the basic processes involved in e-commerce, how difficult it is to actually get a customer into the store and actually convert. It's difficult. And when you've been doing that for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 1 year, whatever, then you can start doing the next thing. That is polishing the concept. What is our customer value proposition here? So that's about assortment, that's about defining the hero products. So instead of going to market with 132 products, you decide on those 5 hero products. You may have the rest of the categories also online, but those 5 hero products are must-win battles. You need to find out how do we sell those. Then you can start polishing or strengthening the whole operations part of e-commerce, because e-commerce is about operations. And then you can start on focusing on profits and growth, but not before. So there's a whole journey you need to have in place before you start making money and growing.